I'm Bryson DeChambeau, and I am the golfing scientist.
Imagine if someone told you that everything that you knew about golf was completely wrong. Well, that's exactly what Bryson DeChambeau is doing right now. He's transforming golf like a scientist experiments on, gravity, all right? He's making everyone question every fundamental thing that you and I have come to love about golf. So in the next few minutes, we're gonna show you 3 ways that Bryson is breaking golf. What you will see about his methods is probably gonna make you completely change the way that you view the sport. I know it has for me. All right, so let's first talk about one of the crazy things that Bryson did to his body, all right? Have you ever wondered what it would be like if a golfer trained like a bodybuilder? Well, back in 2019, Bryson was just another talented guy on tour. He was a good player, don't get me wrong, but was he a game changer? Not quite. But he had this wild idea that would make other pros shake their heads in disbelief, all right? So while golf's elite focused on things like flexibility, technique, and those picture-perfect swings, Bryson went in a completely opposite direction. He decided to transform himself into something that the golf world had never seen before. In just a few months, he packed 50 pounds of pure muscle through a brutal training program that nobody would want to put their body through. His daily intake reached up to, I think it was 6,000 calories. To put that into perspective, that's roughly 3 times what the average person will eat in a day. I mean, picture eating 3 large pizzas every single day plus dessert, all right? Meanwhile, Bryce's training, it looked more like a torturous activity than practice. While most pros would go out there and, methodically hit the ball with careful adjustments between shots, Bryson was out there hammering like 150 to 200 balls at maximum force. This is where things start to get interesting because the transformation, it yielded some pretty crazy, remarkable results. So by 2020, this new bulked up Bryson was averaging drives, get this, at over 320 yards. 320 yards. He's transforming par 5s into par 4s and making these par 4s essentially drivable, meaning he's getting to the green before anybody else. These courses were designed to challenge the world's best, and they suddenly seemed obsolete because this guy was just driving the ball a country mile. Then came a defining moment at the Bay Hill Arnold Palmer Invitational. All right, so standing on the tee, on the par 5, 6th hole, everybody else was doing the most traditional thing at the time. Everyone played it safe and put the ball on the fairway, which was around a big, massive lake. Bryson, however, he took dead aim at the green. But get this, the green was 370 yards away. So when they saw him getting ready to aim for this, people had gotten really quiet. They got really, really silent because with his distinctive violent swing, he went ahead and went for it. And let me tell you, the ball launched into the Florida sky, carrying over the water the entire way. And when it landed, guess what? It traveled 370 yards, leaving him with just a chip shot to the green on a hole where most players needed 3 shots just to reach there. And I mean, good shots to get there. Look, the gallery just went insane when this happened, and golf had changed right there in front of everyone's eyes. And Bryson had taken a 100-year-old sport and shown that there was still room for dramatic innovation in it. Now, we're going to talk more about what Bryson did to his body later in this video. However, while most of the golf world was fixated by Bryson's muscles and monster drives, they completely missed another revolution that he quietly engineered that was in his golf bag. So I want you, if you happen to play golf, do you think about the golf clubs in your bag. Each iron gets shorter as the number gets higher. So it's like trying to write with a number 2 pencil at different lengths, right? Each requiring a slightly different grip, a slightly different motion. This forces golfers to make tiny adjustments to their posture, to their stance, to their swing plane, if you want to get all, super nerdy about golf. And you have to do this for every single shot with every single club that you have. But Bryson, he asked the question, what if every iron in my bag was the exact same length? Now, it seemed crazy at first, but Bryson and his coach, Mike Sky, they weren't afraid of crazy ideas, all right? These guys were different, all right? So in a high school workshop, they transformed an old set of clubs and made each one measure exactly 37.5 inches. They made every club head weigh exactly 280 grams. So for longer irons, they had to add weight. For shorter irons, they had to remove some weight. They set every club to the same 72-degree lie and added oversized grips for consistency. Now, when Bryson first tested this new strange set of clubs, something entirely magical took place. He hit an 8-iron from 160 yards and watched it draw perfectly toward the target, meaning he had like a little bend on it and it ended up getting exactly where he wanted it to be. So traditional golf wisdom claimed that this approach would fail at every professional level, but Bryson, he's different. Bryson silenced critics by winning the US Amateur Championship, then continuing on his success tour as he went on into the PGA. So one of the golf brands, Cobra, noticed that Bryson's innovations and created the first mass-produced single-length iron. Now, the golf world, the response really surprised everyone because more than 40,000 sets of these golf clubs started to sell worldwide since Bryson had introduced the concept. Thousands of weekend golfers discovered what Bryson had already knew, that having one of the most consistent swings on all golf irons makes golf simpler and more enjoyable. Now, that isn't the only way that Bryson changed the game. He also brought something to the game that really no one else before him had ever brought. While most golfers would go out there and kind of figure out where the putt is going to go and kind of feel with their feet and do all of this fancy schmancy stuff, that's not what Bryson started doing. He was calculating the precise mathematical equations that factor into the slope percentage and green speed and distance and everything to determine the path that the ball would take before he would golf. Yeah, it's pretty nuts, but the guy is a freaking genius. You see, this scientific approach is like a chess grandmaster planning 5 moves ahead while everyone else just plays checkers. Look, the next time that you are watching Bryson play, I want you to pay attention to something very unusual, and that's his stroke when he's trying to get the ball into the hole. Now, again, the way most traditional golf players like myself would normally do is that we'll go out there and we'll try to put together this nice fluid motion using artistic dance and song numbers and all of this, whatever, right? Bryson, he's a little bit different. He does what experts call the rigid locked up style. His shoulders rock like clockwork with minimal hand movement, essentially turning himself into like a human pendulum. Bryson also uses a drawing compass during penalties to precisely map pin locations. This guy's insane, all right? The technique proved so effective that the USGA banned the practice entirely, and his methods literally changed the rule book, again, showing traditionalists that they have no idea what they're talking about, all right? Look, all of this scientific wizardry that Bryson does completely changes his approach to golf courses entirely as well. So let me give you an example. Before the 2020 Masters, he shocked the golf world by declaring Augusta National played as a 67, a par 67, just for him instead of the official par 72. Now, check out his reasoning. It wasn't arrogant, it was just math, all right? With his distance, he could reach all par 5s within 2 shots, effectively turning them into par 4s. Look, a lot of traditional golfers, including myself, questioned for years whether all of this science would actually improve not just golf in general, but would it improve Bryson's game? And the results, they really speak for themselves, because Bryson's analytical approach has delivered multiple tournament victories, including major championships. That's where the real difference lies here. Now, even with all of that going on, remember how earlier I told you I was going to tell you about how Bryson completely changed his health after running up and getting super bulky? Well, check out what he did, because it was pretty insane. Just when the golf world thought that they understood Bryson's scientific approach, he completely flipped the script again. After years of pushing the limits on building more mass and just getting more bulky and creating more power, Bryson discovered that it was kind of counterintuitive, because sometimes in golf, actually a lot of times in golf, less is actually more. And his body transformation, it needed to change from just bulky to actually being something so that he could live, he could survive, because you can't keep up the type of diet that he had at the time. So by late 2022, Bryson's health, it started deteriorating from the inside. The extreme diet that had fueled his power and his revolution on the game of golf, his body started to rebel on him. Blood tests confirmed his fears because his system was super inflamed. His body wasn't just whispering for help, it was screaming for help. He discovered that he had allergies with corn, wheat, gluten, and even dairy, ingredients that were pretty much virtually in everything that he was eating and anything that you might enjoy eating. I know a lot of that is, I like gluten. I mean, hey, what can I say? But the man who had built his game around his body's excess now faced a future restriction of having to figure that out while still being effective. Now, what followed was wicked, all right, because it included a complete nutritional overhaul of everything that Bryson was doing at the time, and he adopted what was called the Whole 30 diet. His daily intake of 5,000 calories dropped to around 2,900, resulting in 44 pounds of weight loss. Now, with this change, it also presented a pretty fascinating new challenge for Bryson. He had engineered his entire game around his mass of power, and losing about 20% of his total body weight, it started to threaten the distance advantage. When he would hit the ball from the tee or anywhere really on the course, it was going to eat at that pretty much signature of his game. And what came next was pretty groundbreaking, because the science revealed something very interesting. Optimal health enhanced optimal performance. So by removing the inflammation that had been weighing him down literally and figuratively, Bryson recovered faster between rounds. His energy, it stabilized. It was no longer just this brute force. His consistency improved and his body stopped fighting against itself. And since his weight loss, Bryson has played some of his best golf. Now came his crowning achievement that we all like to talk about because it was pretty amazing to watch, but that's winning the 2024 US Open with his new revitalized body. Now, what makes this chapter of Bryson's story so compelling is this: his willingness to reverse course when data pointed him in a new direction. Bryson isn't just achieving remarkable success. He's actually transforming the entire game of golf as you and I know it. His scientific approach has created a ripple effect across the sport, with elite players starting to adapt exactly the kinds of things that he's doing, including his methodologies when it comes to the golf course. And even a four-time champion like Rory McIlroy has modified his swing specifically to capture the power advantages that Bryson has brought. Look, this barrier-breaking mentality that Bryson has is pretty unique. It's precisely what's shaping not just his game, but the game of golf completely. So what do you think? Is everything that Bryson doing helping or hurting golf? You let me know down in the comments. And if you want to know about the #1 thing that has really changed golf forever, I want you to check out the video right here, and I'll catch you later.